the harvest.
Good afternoon, Africa. This is Imene Nouad with the latest news from across the continent and the world. Algeria's Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf says today that the country is entering the final phase of its mandate at the UN Security Council, reaffirming its commitment to its principles and to representing the Arab and African regions. He confirms that Algeria votes in favor of the latest UN resolution on Gaza, stressing its urgent priorities: a ceasefire, protection of Palestinians, unrestricted humanitarian aid, and the preparation for construction. Attaf adds that the resolution rejects forced displacement and any plans of the Zionists to occupy Gaza. The Sahrawi embassy in Nairobi takes part in Kenya's 38th International Fair, aiming to reinforce Sahrawi presence in Africa and highlight the continent's support for the Western Sahara coast. The exhibition showcases information on Sahrawi statehood, natural resources, and cultural heritage. Kenya's Ministry of Lands and Urban Development awards a certificate of appreciation to the Sahrawi people presentation for its active contribution. In Morocco, anti-normalization groups calls for greater mobilization after the postponement of the appeal trial of 13 activists opposing ties with the Zionist entity. The Moroccan Front for Supporting Palestinians urges respect for the right to protest and solidarity with just causes, led by the Palestinian issue. The activists previously handed suspended sentences face charges linked to the anti-normalization demonstrations, which right groups describe as politically motivated. The United Nations warns that the crisis in Darfur continues to inflict devastation harm on civilians, especially the children. The UN humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher describes the region as a horror scene, saying 1 in 5 people killed in Al-Fasher is a child. Speaking from Chad-Sudan border, he stresses the need for safe humanitarian corridors and insists on accountability, for those fueling the violence amid the ongoing conflict between the Sudanese army and the rapid support forces. At a UN Security Council session about the situation in the Middle East, Algeria's United Nations Ambassador Ammar bin Jama emphasized the latest global report on food crisis and stated that the conflict remains the main catalyst behind the world's most severe emergencies in places like Sudan and Palestine, as well as Algeria's role in reinforcing humanitarian law on the global stage. Let's hear to a part of his speech.
The 2025 Global Report on Food Crisis demonstrates that conflicts remains the primary drivers of the most severe crisis. Nowhere is this starker than in Sudan, than in Gaza. In Gaza and Sudan, siege tactics, restrictions on food, clean water, fuel and electricity, and repeated strikes on essential infrastructures have amounted to the use of starvation as a weapon of war. The impact on civilians, especially children, has been profound, with long-term consequences that cannot be reversed. The link between hunger and as a tool of war. Parties to conflict. Algeria is actively engaged in this agenda, co-chairing the Working Group on the Protection of Civilian Infrastructure, TONEL, was reaffirmed when we signed indispensable. Many countries confront overlapping pressures.
The United Nations Security Council will be holding a briefing today on strengthening regional cooperation against terrorism in West Africa and the Sahel region. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and ECOWAS Commission President Omar Aliou Touré are outlining efforts to tackle root causes for insecurity and reinforce long-term stability. The meeting, chaired by Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio, highlights ongoing UN African Union coordination to confront terrorism and organized crime. For the first time, the G20 is setting foot in Africa, in South Africa to be precise, marking a historic moment for the continent. Algeria invited as a guest of honor alongside other African nations. It will be taking part in this summit, which could strengthen Africa's voice on the global stage. Algeria, as the invited guest of honor alongside many African nations, will be seen by many across the continent as a strategic opportunity to enhance Africa's influence and defend its interest in the global economic and political discussions. An analyst shares more, named Collier Mashivol, a South African finance expert and the G20 participant. He will be on the microphone of Samar Hamadi, our special envoy. Let's hear it.
They play a critical role. They're one of the biggest countries in Africa. They play a critical role in terms of human capital, in terms of technology. I know that there's a lot of gas there in that part of the world, and they're close proximity to the other part of the world, including Europe, also makes them a serious role player who can contribute better and make sure that their proximity to the world players, they bring it to the fore, and then we formulate strategies in terms of how do we solve our problems in our country and for the benefit of Africa.
Algeria ranks second among the largest barley producers in both the Arab and world and Africa as well for the 2024-2025 session, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. National output reaches nearly 1.2 million tons, placing Algeria just behind Iraq in the Arab region and behind Ethiopia on the continent. Production increased by 17% compared to the last season, rising from 1.03 to 1.23 million tons. Algerian Prime Minister Sif Gharieb, representing President Abdelmajid Tebboune, inaugurated the first edition of the 2025 Skills Olympiad in Oran with 550 participants from the vocational training sector. He said the event is a key step in upgrading vocational training and follows Algeria's recent accession to the World Skills Africa. Gharieb stressed boosting training, institution and practical skills, urging better resource use to equip youth with the national economy. Let's hear it.
Algeria's accession to the African Initiative World Skills Africa comes within the framework of implementing the comprehensive strategic vision set by the President of the Republic to develop the vocational training and education sector and make it a true driver of economic and social development. This vision is grounded in the firm belief that the standards of success in today's world are no longer limited to theoretical knowledge, but also rely on practical skills, creativity, innovation, and the ability to keep pace with technological acceleration. The aim of this strategic approach is to mobilize all available capacities and use them more effectively to build the skills of our youth and enable them to actively contribute to leading the national economy in the future.
The second and last day of the Digital Transformation in West and Central Africa Summit is unfolding in Cotonou. Leaders, World Bank officials and digital experts all came together to this important event from November 17th to 18th to discuss how technology can help the continent grow. Yasmin Ben Ashur shares more details.
Benin is taking center stage in the African technology field as the Digital Transformation in West and Central Africa Summit unfolds. Held with the World Bank, this event brings together representatives from 22 African countries. Beninese officials, the president of the West African Development Bank, and the digital expert are sharing ideas to reduce the digital divide. Panels focused on the challenges of giving everyone access to the internet and digital tools, AI, especially the rural areas. This event aims to create a more connected Africa, where technology helps people, businesses, and governments work better and compete on the global stage.
In the health sector, Cape Verde, Mauritius and Seychelles officially eliminate measles and rubella, becoming the first countries in sub-Saharan Africa to reach this level. The confirmation comes from the WHO organization, Regional Verification Commission, which reviewed their vaccination coverage and monitoring systems. The Algerian national football team resumes the training in Jeddah and today is going to face the friendly match against Saudi Arabia for the preparation of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. The players had already gone technical and physical drills at the King Abdullah Stadium as the squad built for this momentum the continental tournament. This was all for today's Harvest. Thank you for paying attention to the fullest. Don't go too far and keep enjoying our programs of the day with your faithful channel, Ifriqiya FM, the voice of Africa.